Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. The dev server is once again closed, but that doesn't stop Gaijin from making some changes to it. So I thought in this video we would have a look at some of those changes, and then also at the same time talk about the update in general and also the future of what we're probably going to see over the next period of time. When it comes to the live server in War Thunder, it's been pretty boring recently. You have the Mackinson event, then obviously the Battle Pass going on, which the Battle Pass is really nice, but the Mackinson event in general has been such a slog to get through, and it's definitely been a little bit rough. So for me personally, I'm really looking forward to this update to actually have some new stuff, and then maybe at the same time have some new things to grind, which aren't pretty poor naval vehicles that are horrifically imbalanced. So let's get into the data mines, and also let's get into some thoughts. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. So looking at the data mine, they've continued a bunch of the changes they've been doing. So screwing around with the smoke effect stuff, obviously changing what it's going to look like, not just for air-to-air missiles, but also ground-to-air missiles, making little changes here and there. And I think overall it's actually kind of a really interesting idea. Basically, depending on the size of the missile and also historically what it looks like, they're making certain missiles harder to see and also easier to see, depending on it. And for the larger missiles, it's really easy to see them right now, and anything launched off an aircraft is pretty easy to see, apart from obviously stuff like the AIM-9M with the smokeless motor. But on the ground, there are certain vehicles that are getting a huge buff from these changes, and you're going to have to rely way more on your RWR instead of just looking for the missiles, because certain vehicles like the Elder, for example, it's pretty much impossible to see them coming in, at least on the dev server. Other ones like the Buck and also the Sky Saber and many of the other larger missiles, much easier to see, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. Another vehicle that also got a change, which is quite fun, is the Key 109. The Key 109 is a donkey vehicle, as I like to call it. It's basically just got a big donkey gun on the front of it, and it doesn't really do anything else. But it was a lot worse in the past. It was a lot higher BR, and then also it only really had access to some pretty bad kind of ammo. You had like HE because the Q109 was generally designed to destroy aircraft, but over the years, Gaijin have added different things to it to try and help him out. Basically, this time, in this update, they've added the 75mm Type 88 for the Key 109. The APT on the stock and also the existing armor belts has been changed to APHE, and the APHE only armored targets belt. This has not a ton of explosive mass, so 63 grams versus 460. However, it has a much larger K penetration, so 113 to 83 millimeters. So what they're adding is some more fun APHE memes to other vehicles. This won't be anywhere near as devastating as stuff like the Yak-9K, for example, because at the end of the day, it's a Key 109, and there's a reason why it kept going down in BR, and it's because it's not very maneuverable and hard to get the gun on the target. But it is interesting to see if people use this a little bit more. Talking about another Japanese vehicle, the HIEI, the Heie has got a bunch of little pieces of armor around it. A 31.75mm RHA piece of armor and a 57.15 around the place, so you can generally have a bit of fun with that. Also, there are some radar changes. I've seen a lot of people talk about the radar changes in terms of the vehicles that are coming in. All I can say is these things change so many times. I don't really like going through them because, you know, by the time I've talked about them today, they've completely changed tomorrow. So what's really the point? And it's actually kind of interesting because even during this dev server, I've run into the same issue where basically I make a video talking about things that have changed, and then by the next day, if somebody watches that video, the dev server could easily be updated and those things have changed once again. And it does make doing this a little bit frustrating at times. There have been people, even over the last week, have accused me of just straight lying to their face about things, and it's just because stuff has been updated on the dev server. And I don't know how else to fix this or to fix this. Maybe it's just something that's just going to happen going into the future. Another change that has also come in is for the Mosquito TR Mark 33. This is, of course, the one which is getting the torpedo in the British tech tree, which is kind of cool. The wing gear springs are now shorter and the wheels are now smaller. So basically, it'll be a little bit harder to land probably, but not a huge deal for the vehicle in general. I'm looking forward to the new Mosquitoes. I was super surprised to see all of them coming into the game, and hopefully they actually have quite a large impact. The vehicles themselves, at least in War Thunder, have never really fit because they're kind of multi-role vehicles. They don't really fit how people generally play. Usually in War Thunder, you want more specialist vehicles when it comes to that area of air, whether it's like an air superiority fighter, whether it's like a very heavy bomber, or just a very, very good strike aircraft. The Mosquitoes are like jack of all trades, so they don't really fit in a specific area, which obviously isn't great. Then you have a new skin text for the Su-30SM. This is the digital camouflage as well, so it looks like they might be throwing in another camouflage for the Su-30SM after the other two that have also turned up. I think one was the Kazakhstani one, and the other one was kind of the air one for the demonstration team. So yeah, they just continue to keep pumping out camos for that thing, which makes sense because it's obviously the highest echelon Russian vehicle. They also changed the name of the Tiger II SLAR, basically just putting the SLAR 16 in brackets, nothing too different, just making sure people know what it is. And as I said, a bunch of changes to the missile effects in terms of the smoke effect are coming in too. And I hope people really enjoy those because generally they look really nice. And one of the things that's been probably the largest change over kind of like War Thunder's last year or two is different effects to kind of tell what's going on. One of the problems that War Thunder's had, especially when it comes to cast stuff, is understanding when you're getting hit by things. So at top tier especially, this has been absolutely horrific for years, where you randomly just get hit by stuff and there is no way that you could detect it. Nowadays, they've changed the audio slightly, so therefore what that means is you can hear stuff a little bit further away, so you know when it's coming in, but there's not a ton you can do about it. But if you have a look at certain missiles, for example, that get fired now, you can actually see the trails coming off of them, meaning that you can see them really quite clearly in the air. And at least for me, with a decently high-resolution monitor, like I have a 1440p one, it means that being able to track these things actually has been quite a blessing. I understand for people with smaller monitors or low-resolution monitors, it isn't as easy, but hopefully with these changes in this update, it can be a little bit better. This also opens up War Thunder for the future updates to add in more missile mechanics, and if we don't see anti-radiation stuff by the end of the year, I'll be incredibly surprised. I know a lot of people with these new radar systems have been talking about them, the idea of adding in anti-radiation stuff to be able to counter these AA machines. To be honest, I feel like CAS at top tier has been incredibly powerful for an extremely long time. I would like kind of the ducks to kind of settle in a row before they start adding in big counters to these things. And also, I hope at some point they actually fix the fact that a lot of these AAs just cannot be able to intercept munitions in the air. We're actually seeing an issue with the SAMPT where that is not able to actually intercept stuff on the dev server right now. Well, maybe it is, but at least when I tested it, it wasn't able to. And that is a big problem because the thing about these AAs, it's not just about intercepting the planes, it's intercepting the stuff that they fire, the ordnance options that they have to try and stop, getting absolutely annihilated. So we'll have to see what goes on with that. But right now, I feel like it's not in a good place. And adding in a hard counter to stuff like that probably isn't great since they can't defend themselves from it, or at least some of them can't. The Buck obviously will be able to, and many other vehicles will because they have a very large warhead and trigger radius, but other ones maybe not so much. Another thing into the news which was quite nice, it looks like Denmark is also getting the SAMPT, so they've ordered a few of them. This means that it can come to the Swedish tech tree, and yes, Sweden has the Elder, but it is nowhere near as good as the SAMPT, and hopefully, since that order has gone through, this will give Gaijin the impetus to be able to put another version of it in the game and make it a little bit more balanced across the board. What's really cool about this update is they've added a ton of parity to a different nations, or to a bunch of different nations, and that's positive. That's what you want from the game. You want the game to actually be more balanced. And if you have a look at any of the stats recently, it's not been particularly balanced at top tier. And I understand that top tier can't ever really be balanced, but I'll always take a stance that I would like it at least closer than further away from it, so we don't just get one or two nations basically controlling the roost. But the major problem that I hope that they fix in the future is just trying to get people to play something other than the major nations, because that is the biggest problem at the moment and will be kind of going into the future. Let me know your thoughts on the new updates, and as always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.